Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
We are live. If we're live, we know it's Friday.
That's right.
So I'm Adrian Park. With me again this week, our founder, Jay Carter. And I'm going to go ahead and say this that withholding payment is to subcontractors is a bad way to manage those relationships.
Absolutely. Like it's slavery at one point, right?
Oh, yeah. But I'll say that like people within the company I was running and friends of mine, other contractors, for a lot of people, that's the whole strategy,
That
right?
is,
Like
you got it.
I'm not paying you, motherfucker. Like
Right.
fix it, make it better, redo it.
At your
Um,
expense, even if
right.
it was my fault.
Right. And that is, I'm just going to say it today, just to go straight to the point. That is not a good way to manage those relationships.
No.
Because one, I think it's bad juju if just to get weird and woo woo for a second, but more than that, I mean, some people would call it predatory. Others, I would say, like it's not a good way to get people to come back and want to do jobs, because I mean, having great subs is like having great employees. And if you've got great subs, you've potentially got a great business. If you're always like struggling to find new subs, or you go through subs, go through a lot of subs and burn a lot of people, that's a hard way to do business, because you
Well,
always
and
got to find
it's
fresh meat.
exactly. And then again, you're also going into pools of subcontractors that they get worse, they don't get better, right?
Right.
And you see kind of these big companies that have to rely on very, guys I wouldn't get to, do my doghouse are now all of a suddenly
Right.
they're prime contractors. And you kind of step around. I've seen it from both sides. I've been the subcontractor where this move's been played on me, and being experienced and very good at what we do, we can see who's who right away from the builders and the general contractors, and we don't play the games with them no more. And then I've also, seen it from our clients' eyes where they're the contractor, and they can't find good subcontractors, and
Right.
they end up having to do the work themselves, which is an interesting, thing. So when you go back, they want to blame, oh, I can't find good subs. Good subs don't exist. Oh, blah blah blah. Bullshit. You're just a terrible at what you
Right.
do, and that's
Right. People
managing the
don't want to work for you.
relationships. Exactly. So
Right.
there is amazing subcontractors out there, and unfortunately, it's a lot of these bad general contractors that put subcontractors out of work, cause their own pain and cause the pain in the market, in the industry. And I think today what we're going to talk about is just some good clean fundamentals into how you treat your trades. And ironically, like when you systemize your subcontracting process, um it's incredibly easy, and
Yeah.
there's a lot less stress, and clarity is the thing, right? So I mean, before we add complication to things and say, like AI and all these other things, we got to really kind of talk about like bare bones, what is the basic thing you need to do and to understand if you're hiring a subcontractor, right? Make sense?
Well, it makes perfect sense. And I mean, I like you, we were on both sides, right? Sometimes I was the prime,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was basically making the bigger decisions and so on and reporting to the owner or architect or both. And there were times when I was a single sub or first tier sub,
Mm-hmm.
and like, and actually did a lot of that in the first couple of years and I mean, found, I didn't know that there were general contractors that preyed on
Oh,
subcontractors, like just
absolutely. Yep.
looked for fresh, like guys that didn't know
Mm-hmm.
because they just went through them. They just like literally was like turn and burn.
Yep.
And anyway, that was a eye-opening experience, that like realizing, oh, these guys. I remember I was talking to a buddy of mine that had actually worked in the company, worked in the masonry business that I was in and then running, and he's really talented, like super super talented guy, and still one of my favorite people that to stay in touch with, and and I was telling him about this job with this particular general down in Pittsburgh, and he's like, and he was like, oh yeah, I used to always mark them up by X,
Yep.
like X percent. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, Well, because they'd always try to fuck me over, and I was like, "Dude, why did you say?" I'm like,
Right?
I'm like 9 months into a job, and I'm literally getting my teeth kicked in every day, like losing like about $8,000 a month, and you couldn't say like, "Don't bid to
Right.
them," or watch your
Right.
back, or don't sign the contract. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, it's something I think that I think there's a lot of I don't think the company, I don't think the business I was running is unique in that there wasn't a plan. Like when I came in, I remember we had this sub um that was okay. They actually did the same thing, but we could sub stuff out to them for certain size jobs and whatever else. And so they decent resource and whatever. And we had some problems with them, and I went to our bookkeeper, and he that point told me that they didn't have any insurance. He's like, "Oh
Hmm.
yeah, by the way, it costs us about 30 grand a year
Right.
to have them as a sub because they don't carry workers' comp. He doesn't carry insurance."
Right.
And I
Amazes
was
me,
like,
right?
"Okay, all right." So he's like, "So are by the way, you should probably charge for that." If I'm like, "How do I know if we're gonna hire him?" Like, what?
Right.
You know? Anyway, so I don't think I don't think that's a unique situation that I
No.
was in. I think a lot of people are in that situation where you just think, "Oh, I'll call so and so, or I'll call so and so," and there's no sort of master contract or between you and them. And
Mm.
so it's like kind of like just like we hope everything goes well, but when it falls apart, shit starts to get real.
Right. And I can't agree more. So let's talk about it from two perspectives. Okay.
Okay.
So again, we'll start off with discussing it in core principles, and I'm going to share some resources and stuff for this, but let's talk from it in core principles on you are subcontracting for a builder or for a general contractor. Okay. What are the things you want to look out for um, in subcontract? Now, I'll tell you what I look at first. All right. I'll tell you our process for deciding if we would even consider, taking on somebody as a subcontractor. And it doesn't happen very often. So first things first, we are going to make sure that they don't have any liens, lawsuits. We check their credit. It costs you nothing to do this. And I can't tell you how many companies that I've looked at when you pull their credit reports and you go, wow, this must be a reputable company. You pull their credit report and it's an instant nope, they've got live lawsuits, and that'll tell you right there and then, right?
Yep.
The
Yep.
other thing you're going to watch out for is companies that have multiple names operating under different, they call them divisions. No, those are defunct. Like that is a way for them to shelter liability. So
Yeah.
run the opposite direction. Now, again, when you're doing credit reports, you will see that they have other companies listed under their umbrella or connected to their search. Just search it. And I mean, you don't, again, anybody going in to put your money in someone else's pocket, you had best treat it like you are the creditor, because that's
Yeah.
exactly what you are lending
Yep.
them money if you choose to. So that's the other thing. The next thing is read. If they don't give you a contract, don't work with them, right? And then write your own terms into their contract. Don't ever agree in a million years to their contract. How do we use ChatGPT? Will you analyze that contract and find out where your liability is? Because I can't tell you how many times I've had losing clauses that were just
Yep.
outrageous. And they don't say, like, the guys running the jobs don't say anything until it comes time to pay. And then
Yep.
they start rolling these things
Oh
out. So
yeah,
I
by
don't
the
agree.
way.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
yeah.
The other thing is don't live in an existence of scarcity. Okay. Be prepared to walk away from every contract and assume off the bat that you are. Okay. So I want you to treat these subcontracts not as it's not like selling very high margin work. In everyone I've had to fight for my numbers. It's a numbers game, right? And again, there are exceptions to this, of course, and we found them, like niching out, finding those sweet spots where there's a gap in the market. Yeah, sure, that you can make good high margins, and we did with steel. But on the same exact note, I've had, and I tell you from pure, like, as I'm saying this, the hair on my back of my neck is standing up, thinking of many traumatizing, like, money stealing, life stealing, nights up
Yeah.
worrying. Like, don't
Mhm.
do it. Okay. So the other thing is size up your component or your opponent. Okay. Now, you should always try to create a partnership, right? I'm not saying, look at them as the enemy or anything like that, but size them up means before you do business with them, size them up and saying, if these people don't plan to pay me for 90 days, can my business absorb that? All right. And then be prepared to walk away and know what you can chew. Because when I go into a subcontractor, I have all the money in the bank to lose and I can pay all my bills and no problem. If I don't do it, because what again, if you leave it for chance, you're going to get burned 9 times out of 10. Right. The next thing is be clear, all right, about your schedule, and all of your issues need to be documented. And if you're in a big commercial setting or anything like that, there is no detail that is not meant to be going in a daily log, in a daily report. So we make ours super easy. We keep, we use Company Cam to keep the day-to-day records, but we also write a report, and everything that's said to us is documented. We document it because I can't tell you, again, even when projects are going smooth and nice and easy, all of a sudden you get to the end and there is a problem. And now what that friendly relationship starts to turn to, how much money is this going to cost me? And I'll give you some good examples of when I've won and when I've lost. So one big win that I had quite recently, we were doing a large commercial project, and it was for a spa. And the contractor was probably the worst general contractor I have ever in my life seen. And it was a cooperative, it was a mess, but big job. Like, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars in terms of the actual overall project. Well, our terms in our contract, I scratched out about 3/4 of it. And again, like, playing hardball when we got to it, I knew I was the only game in town that could do the project. And I knew that they'd come so far in the thing that they had to agree to it. So I kind of bent them around. But one of the clauses were, if they couldn't collect their holdback, that they could withhold it from me. And I scratched that out, took that right out of the terms. So fast forward, the job's done, and they had an oopsie. So they had a failure, 2 failures, system failures, that caused all the guests staph infections, because it's a spa. So an outdoor, like, Nordic spa. The only time, so the 30 or 40 people contracted staph infections, and it was on the GC. So they got sued for multi-millions. It made the news and everything else. And lo and behold, no holdback. So I take my demand and I put a direct lien, because they prevent you from liening the project if you are. So I took those terms out and I liened the spot. They paid me within. I didn't even have to go to them. Like, there was no court, no nothing. I just informed them, they paid me. That's how easy. Now, had I done it the other way, guess who's paying their legal bills? And they make it so the subcontractor has to contribute to the legal fees of their bad decisions. So I was completely able to bypass all of that, and that was a big win. Now let me tell you about a time when I lost, and lost large. So about documenting. So we were doing a project, a large project on a restoration project on a historic church, 130 years old, and they're converting them into lofts. And I'll never forget this one for the rest of my years. So they made a change and decided to put steel framed dormers, like hardened steel plate dormers, in lieu of wood dormers, which I had the contract to build the dormers, roof it all in. Okay. And the steel contractor was unable to secure it properly because the building was so old, and there was problems with the joists in the hangar, and blah, blah, blah. Okay. And I made a mistake in that I agreed to just go forward without getting any, without documenting what had happened, the transaction of them changing it and all that stuff, and no pictures, no nothing like that. So, we get into the project, and we start to roof in this thing, and it's a very large project, and there's about 13, 14 of these steel dormers. Well, we get it all roofed in, and one of the dormers slides off, crushes a car in the parking lot, and rips out all the boards. It's raining, the inside's finished. We have this big, huge, run around to get it covered, big time damage. And I'm going, well, it's not on me. They brought in the steel contractor. It was all on me, because I was the contractor that was contracted despite them changing it. What was I supposed to do? Nope. Stop, reduce your liability, get off that, get your name off it. Because when they sue everyone. And that one cost me $750,000 in between not getting paid and lawsuits and damages, and I can go on, right? So when I say trauma, pure trauma, like nothing to do with me, nothing to, in part, but had I taken the time to make them remove that from our contract and follow the terms, document from a day-to-day point of view, I could have easily skated past that, but instead I went directly into it. And at the end of the day, the steel contractor just went bankrupt, and who's stuck on the hook for it? And the builders don't care. There are no rules when it comes to this kind of stuff. So that's a perspective from being the subcontractor. And again, some good rules of thumb here is know who you're doing business with, right? Assume everything, right? Assume everything is a potential lawsuit. All right.
And
every detail matters.
I would say, to your point, Jay, like, so if you're a sub, check the credit of the general, right?
Yeah,
if you're a general, obviously check do it.
They do it.
Doesn't matter
which
which seat you're in. Because I did that as a sub. I started going, I went to my attorney and I had the LexisNexis pulled for all these big generals that we didn't know after getting screwed, a couple times and several $100,000 later. And there were people, I was like, there was one job that I had bid and I was going to be the preferred masonry sub on, and it got passed from one. So one general backed out. That was a big red flag to me. But it was a historic job, and it would have gotten a lot of, it would have been in the paper and everything. And that's what the owner was all excited about. I was more concerned about the risk, because again, I had lost
risk is big time.
Yep. So then this new general steps in. We don't know them. And I go to the job site and they're disorganized and they're asking me to cut like the scope down and this and that. And then he's telling me how this, all this extra stuff. And I'm just like, I got a bad feeling. So I call my attorney, have him pull the thing. And there were a couple of items and I was like, and we backed out, I was like, nope. So, and great. And ended up plugging like the job I ended up doing instead of that. We made tons of printed money on. And that's the thing I think that we don't think about sometimes.
Right.
You just said it like, you said my cost on my loss on it, like all in it was $750,000. We don't think about the fact that, one, if you pay to do a job, right? So you get screwed by as a sub or by a sub, you pay to do the job, plus you miss out on the money you would have made, plus you have all the costs. And I mean, it's just it's a cascade of just shit.
And that's and there is a litter of bankrupted subcontractors out there. And don't think, again, companies like mine, all it takes is one of these jobs. And even if you're financially stable, the years to take back to earn back some of these capital losses that you can take is exponential. And again, there's already red flags. So how the contractor is negotiating terms. If you're coming across terms that are meant to sound like you're on the hook for absolutely everything, I mean, those are red flags. You're dealing with guys that have had multiple lawsuits and stuff like that. If a change comes up, right, guys, be fast with your change work orders. We have ours completely systemized that the second something's up on site, it's priced within a couple hours and it's back in front of their face, and we stop work. We do not proceed. And I take their terms that force me to continue whether I get the change work order signed or not. I take those out of their contracts, because that basically says you can be a slave and they will hold you to what the original scope was. If it's a change, it's a change. The only way that you're going to get leverage is if you stop the work, right? Or you avoid doing the thing. But too often these subcontractors get forced to eat all the extras, which the general is responsible for. So what we do is we're fast to get the change work orders. We charge a premium on those change work orders. I see this all the time with subs, is that they price it like they would be pricing a regular job, or give the guy a break. No, you got to remember, your job has been stopped. Your plan has been changed, and it costs money to manage change. All right. It costs big money. So the rule I always had is it's 100% markup on anything. Okay. 100%. Okay. If you're not marking up 100% or better, sometimes if I've been aggravated and I want to leverage a change work order with the builder, 150%, 200%. I don't care. At the end of the day, it's positioning yourself and treating this as a continuous negotiation, right? So again, I just wanted to bring that up about, leveraging your change work orders and your schedules and stuff like that, because there is importance into being a good subcontractor. And let me tell you, the more that you hold your ground and show your competency, the more you're going to get hired by good
right.
contractors and
That's
trades.
right.
Because think about
That's
it. And guys get this wrong. They think they have to kiss the contractor's ass. No, if I'm in the general's shoes, I'm looking at that going, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Like, and again, the abuse can go up from there, right? Not to say I abuse any subcontractors or anything like that. I don't, but I know who's very competent, and I'm only looking for guys that know their stuff, that can be in and out, that we have good, clean agreements with. I'm not looking to take advantage, because I know if it's not a win-win, and this is a very important point. So if you are not looking at your subcontractors and your other partners, vendors, suppliers, whoever,
right.
and looking for a win-win, like, how is this guy going to eat from this? And you're only looking at it like, how am I going to benefit? I promise you problems are going to follow. Okay. If you're looking at it as a predatory transaction, okay,
Yeah.
and you're going out and trying to find the guy that
Just
the lowest price,
get.
right,
Yep.
and you're going to hit him up with all that. Listen, the world's a small world, and what goes around comes back around, and you're going to get it.
Right.
If you're not asking the questions, if you know somebody's not quite right about their pricing, you're not asking the right questions and ensuring that you've done everything you can to make sure that is going to be a win-win. I was okay. Aside from holding hands, and we all know, like, there's accountability here, but if you're not asking yourself first, will my sub live to see another job after this? Like, will they make enough money to want to work for me again? All right. Can we grow with this subcontractor? Does he have the ability to change or adapt and work with us? And like, is there a partnership here? If you're looking at it like they're almost like a slave to you, then you're going to lose, and your business will not thrive long term. Because again, I much rather take a higher price and pass that on to my client and sell my value than be the low guy that is bringing in fucking trash, because you garbage in, garbage out. All right. And guys, just do not get this through their head. I see it day in and day out from both sides, and this is where the problems really occur. So let's now take it from another perspective. Do you want to? Okay.
Yes.
So now I'm in the general's shoes, or in the contractor shoes. Now I work with a lot of subcontractors. In our business, we have about 10 of them, and I can safely say that we follow the same suit. First of all, I give them a actual agreement. All right. And I'm going to just show you right here. You see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So here's the thing. You want a win-win. You best start the relationship off on the right foot. Okay. Assume your subcontractors, again, are your partners. All right. If you had a partnership with somebody, you'd want to make sure that partnership, first of all, is beneficial to both parties, to both sides. All right. But you also want to make it clear, like, this is an agreement. We say, like, what do we promise? What's our promise? We'll communicate everything that we know on the job. We'll get, like, there's no legal language in here. This is like a verbal agreement on paper. Right. And that's one thing we picked up on early on, is that, if you're going to give somebody a very long, and I'm not saying you don't, but before you even engage with that, like, make your points clear. Make it sure that you understand what you expect and what they expect. If they can't meet that, or if there's a problem, it's the easiest thing to part ways and move on. And I've had those discussions, and I'm thankful, so thankful for them. Okay. So if they make it through the credit check, if they get through this process, right? And there's that one-to-one conversation, and I know that they can deliver on the projects. I've checked their references. I'm looking, because you can't take chance. This is an extension of your business, right? And what you need to remember too is that, one of these bad jobs will ruin your reputation. Like, I can't tell you how many bad situations that I've had to face as a result of hiring the wrong subcontractor, finding a warm body, or just trying to put it on somebody else, just trying to, slice it. It never works out. You have to do your due diligence as a contractor and follow through, right? So one of the big things is communication. Your job, if you're hiring a sub, is to get them in and out successfully. Okay. You have a responsibility to make sure that you've done everything on your end, okay, including communicating, planning, like negotiating, and that they can get in and out All right. And again, they live to see the next fight, and profitable. Like I insist. And again, you guys might roll your eyes at me, but I want my guys not having cash flow problems, because what happens when
Right.
they have cash flow problem?
Yeah.
What happens to your sub? Like
They don't
you,
perform. They
right.
don't
So
perform. They're
that's
stressed out
right.
about money.
And
That's
then
what
they wait,
happens.
and then they wait, and you're, now you're not that valuable to them. So like, guys, open up your eyes when you're dealing with it. It's just, I see it over and over again. And again, would you not want to have a partnership where everybody is win-win, right? Again, if you're walking away from these and like somebody's, losing their house or losing their, losing their businesses over doing business with you, I promise you won't be around very long, because that's going to come right back around to you. People are going to
Yep.
start to talk about how bad of a
Yes.
contractor you are. And believe me, we all talk. Like, I talk with my competitors
Yes.
all the time about this
Yep.
stuff. Okay.
Yep.
So let's talk about the next step. So we've hired the subcontractor. We've got a project that we've lined up for them. Now, I see this many times is, hey, we're going to throw you these set of plans and assume you just know the scope and you're good to go. And there's all these gray areas of discussion and understanding. Take the time, take your subcontractor, even if you think he's the most competent person in the world, right? You're letting him see the project. You have to take time to make sure before anything starts, pre-inspections, inspections, like
Yep.
pre-tender meetings, like all those things, give them the chance to back away. And again, I've had it happen multiple times, and I'll tell you, I will take the preservation of my reputation and the preservation on both sides to the subcontracting market, who all talk. All right. And again, I can say that I have a list of people that will jump for me as subcontractors, and they're their own contractors now. They'll stop what they're doing and come and help me out. And this is paid off huge when I'm in a jam. All right. But again, I am fair. I look out for their interest. That's your job. It's not to take advantage, because again, assume that this is like, if there are details that are going to be a problem on the job, all right, those are problems for you. All right.
That's right.
And if you're
Yep.
expecting that this is just a magical thing, it doesn't happen. Everybody needs clarity, and it's going to show in the performance, right? So let's say you decide, hey, you know what? This guy's really, he understands the scope. Everything else is good. Now we're going to put an agreement. So I'm going to share a resource with everyone that's listening in here. I have a pretty decent subcontract. Again, it doesn't have to be this extensive, but you can use it. This is for builders as well. Like, making sure you have subcontracts in place. How
This looks
many
so
of us are
familiar,
just
Jay.
getting the guy? And I sign subcontractors. Like, if I use the guy every single day, I still get a subcontract signed, and we made the easy and digital to be
Yes.
signed. Why?
Yes.
Here's why. I'll give you good times when it's gone right and times when it's gone bad. So, time when it went right. Very recently, again, a subcontractor of mine went through a divorce, and there was some legal transactions, and his business essentially went out of business while on site. Okay. So again,
Ouch.
looking out for everything, we found out about it as he was kind of into it. It gave me an opportunity and a heads up to reposition ourselves as the as a contractor. Okay. But in there, I wasn't taking a financial loss, and he didn't really care because everything was seized. I was able to go to the bank, and because that company was on the hook, I was a first person, and it covered all my cost of replacing him on the job, and he actually
Wow.
used it to negotiate in his dispute. So like, we were put in that, like, we basically leaned his business, and held the business accountable, and we were able to, again, we were able to save 100% of our costs
Yeah. Wow.
in that situation. So again, you might not think, like, when in a million years would that happen? Like, that's so outrageous. And I could tell you about a million times when there was misunderstandings, or I got extra bills and everything else. And again, you can take the leadership authority role at that point when somebody is struggling with their pricing and decides to bill in extra. No, we'll come back to the agreement. What does the agreement say? All right. What do the terms say? Right. And again, I've had to school subcontractors on professionalism, and when you agree to something, you're going to agree to here. Now, that might be contrary to what I said, but when it comes to being clear, if you put them in a position to win, okay, you took the time to have them review their scopes, you made sure all the details were there, and they screw up, well, that's on them. Okay. That's when the
Right.
exchange starts. So you need to make sure that you have those changes. And just like I said before, documenting, observing, evaluating, all of these things matter. Okay. If you just put a sub out onto a job and treat him like he's your regular employee, just going to work every day, you're going to have problems. You're going to have slippage in performance. You're going to
Right.
make assumptions and put them in the wrong place. Every job, in my eyes, okay, big or small, is a new business you're starting. Okay. And just like with any new business, you've got to make sure that the transaction of what you're going to do is understood, clear, and you know what you're getting. They know what they're getting. It makes it much easier. Okay. So again, this is a resource I wanted to share with everybody. Anyone that's listening, right?
Yeah.
So the other thing that I see a lot of guys make a mistake on is not onboarding their subcontractors like they would staff members. Okay. So there has to be a process that you bring a subcontractor on to know how they should make decisions and what happens when this happens, what happens when that happens. And guys just assume that they know all of these things, and then it comes to gray areas and disputes, and you don't know how many times. And again, it came from years of doing it the wrong way to figure out, hey, why am I having the same repeated problem? Like, what keeps happening here? Like, why do they keep like? And then again, as I gotten older and mature and look for less conflict, we started actually onboarding the subcontractors and making sure that they knew, hey, these are our values. This is how our subcontracting process works, right? So I'm always loving flow charts and stuff like that. But again, do they know, right? How do we deal? Does your team know how you deal with invoices? What's the process for getting paid? Like, if everybody's not, like, what's our value, our core values, right? Does our core values say everyone gets paid, when we say we're going to pay them? Why is that important? Just like a supplier. If you don't pay them on time and you make them suffer through a project, first of all, they may not want to ever work for you again.
Right.
But number two is the work quality goes down. Number three is, again, next time you do business with them, it's going to be that much more expensive. Now, if you are organized and everybody is working together to move to complete the objective, you get a much better result. And that starts with communication, onboarding, training. Like, don't lack on this stuff. And again, we have ours pretty automated now, where again, I've extended the hand, and we make sure that they know, did you review this? This is how you invoice here. We made it very simple, very easy. I'm going to show you some work orders. And work order, that might be a foreign term to a lot of guys here, but work orders for your staff, for anyone on the job, but also even if you have a contract, work order. Why? Okay, think of this document, and this is a sample. Oh, this is the other one. I'll have to take this one down. Our team made a really cool one. But even if it's a subcontractor, here's a sample of it. Like, every detail, all the information that they could need. All right, above even what the subcontract says. Okay, because we're a team. I want them to be successful. I want them to have the information. All right. And I can also revert them back and be like, hey, you know what? Here's the details. And guess what? It works. You know how I know? Because guys are quick. The guys will come and do these jobs. Like, all I need to do is make a call, right? All I need to do is be like, yep, because they know they're going to be in and out. They know if there's a problem, we're going to handle it a certain way. They know there's no gray area. So they're actually, again, for them, and if you have subcontractors struggling, the first time, okay, you can work through that with them. Second time, it should get better. If the third time, you got to get rid of them, right? So, I make sure that I'm delivering the information where they need it, when they need it. And again, if it takes more time, all right, I'm not throwing anybody on a project. I'm planning. I am responsible as a contractor to plan and communicate. Okay. If I'm arranging trades, you need to pay a great deal of attention to how that process works, how that information flows. Or you end up looking like the schmuck in the truck that's just throwing guys at customers, and customers are complaining, and the subcontractor starts to steal from you, and he's booking other clients. Why do you think that is? Right? They come in again, and there's subcontractors out there, believe me, that are predatory. They go after people who are unorganized. Just it goes the other way around. Next thing you know, they're stealing customers, stealing, materials. Like, there are bad subcontractors out there too, and you can avoid that, right? We can avoid that through proper process. And again, when you do find somebody good, okay, treat them, as you would want to be treated, right? You think about like bad customers, and we always talk about, what a good client is and what a bad client is. Well, think about it the same way. Are you a good client, right? Would you do business with you, right? If you wouldn't actually go to work for yourself, all right, you've got some work to do on your business. Because if you couldn't come in and be successful, being from the outside in, very unlikely that you will be successful, long term with your
That's right.
business, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So again, it comes a lot down to clarity, communication, understanding that just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? And I'm talking for more the mature contractors that do a lot of subcontract. I still see it. It's a mentality. It's the, well, it's all on him. It's all on,
That's
we're
right.
going to put all of the notion in. And to a degree, there is accountability. Okay. But accountability and predatory, stuff are two different takes, right?
There's
If you
definitely
were
a line. Absolutely.
if you were intentionally trying to take advantage of something, you're going to get it back, right?
Yeah.
If you know that a subcontractor can't possibly do the job for the price you've done, then it's on you. It's not on them, right? Having clear rates, not changing the deal or the transaction, making sure that things are in writing, making sure things are documented. So again, I'll share with you a story of when it's gone right and story of when it's gone wrong, in terms of documenting. So it's just, we have our superintendents that will go to the projects, and their job is to collect pictures, collect feedback, and we make a daily work report. Okay. So we happen to be doing a large, another church project, where we had a subcontractor building all the framing out, and they're putting it over a flat roof area. It was a big job. Okay. So we were there, and we noticed that the framing contractor, who we checked out and was very competent, that there was a deficiency in the truss system that he was using. Okay. So his guys start installing it, and we're like, whoa, hold on. This isn't going to meet the code. And this isn't like, there's supposed to be these tie downs. And basically we're building it on top of a flat roof. Well, there has to be these steel connections, right? They're like, no, they're coming. They're on the way. But like, you're not supposed to really start the framing. You haven't cut it through the flat, like blah, blah, blah. And we documented this. We made reports. We sent them a notice right to their door. And we're like, here, this is, you need to explain this. And where are these things? Because, that was a part of the deal. And, oh yeah, no, it's all good. Well, it wasn't, just like we said. So the framer subcontracted to somebody else, and they assumed that the steel was not part of their contract. So now I'm here in a situation where I've got a whole roof built over top, and in order to get to the framing members, they'd have to rip off everything. Okay. Jeez. So now my statement was, here's the proof, here's the evidence, but rather than become a legal claim, the company knew they were toast. Now, had I not documented that, stopped it, and we managed to save them probably $500,000 because the other side of the roof hadn't been done yet. Right. So again, we stopped it, we got it, not in time, but it was enough that and you can imagine if that was overlooked, and I wasn't, again, very intentional around, how we manage our jobs, that would have easily gone, to the point where I couldn't have recouped, or my reputation would have been damaged. Right. And now let's talk about a time that I've sincerely lost. Okay. And more losses than wins, unfortunately, especially earlier on in my career. So again, we used to do the same old thing, find a sub, throw them out there, not check any of the references, just glad to get a job done. Okay. So this is going to sound terrible, but we did that, and we were working on a job way up north, about 150 kilometers north of us. And we had a subcontract with the subcontractor. And all that was pretty kosher, but we just didn't go and do any inspections and everything else. So, it was our material on the job site. Well, it turns out that our client went to the subcontractor and got his cost or his rate, and then paid the subcontractor out and basically skipped town on the rest of the bill with us. So gave him part of the payment to continue the work and just skip town. So, that was an experience that, I hope I never have to live through again. But, at the end of the day, what ends up happening in those situations is they hold, well, we had a contract with the client, right? But basically he disputed that we ever agreed to the terms, and that because we were negligent in supervising our thing, he ended up not having to pay us, is what ended up happening in the end, which was a pretty, shitty situation. And on top of that, again, you're out all the costs, expenses. So guys, be smart, right? Make sure that you are managing your jobs, because that's what you're paid to do. You can't just throw people onto things and expect, you got to control your
It's
own
not going to be
variables.
okay.
No,
It's
no,
not
and
going to be fine. Yeah.
and again, there's so many more stories I could share with you, that it's just, I've had lots of bad experience, especially in the roofing side of things, but all things to keep in mind. Now, I have an AI component to this. Do
Yeah.
we
What
still
is
have
that?
time?
Let's talk about that.
Sure. All right. So, you remember how I had mentioned a little bit earlier about how you can use, oh, there we go. How you can use the same systems that you would if you're as if you were using your employees. So we have a pretty cool system that we use in our business. It's all AI driven, but recruitment, right? Or if you are a general, you should always be resource hunting, right? If you are a sub, you just like you need to be
Always.
looking for staff.
That's
You do
right.
not market without thinking about, how do I get good people? And again, for us, there's never an opportunity. Like, again, I can pick and choose, but I want more than less. I don't wait till I need somebody to start to hire and put them through, get them signed
Right.
up, get them on our network, so that if something comes up that fits, we're gonna
Boom.
reach out to them, right?
Yeah.
So the cool thing about that is, in our recruitment, our Pro Hire AI, by the way, that's what we offer here at the Profitable Contractor Club, is we can drop in, play these systems for you, but in our Pro Hire AI, we have a lead scoring or a recruitment scoring process that's monitored. So I can go and be like, hey, I need a subcontractor that has $3 million worth of insurances in this area and does this particular type of work, that has met the criteria of our interview process, right? Has all of these, these certificates and things, and boom, there it is. Now, if I don't have it, okay, now I'm going to create a position for those things, and I'm going to be able to use my AI as well to start the recruitment process. But you remember how I said background checks?
Mm-hmm.
Boom, AI does background
Oh,
checks,
yeah. Look at
right?
that.
So it will go
Slick.
through and check it, see if there's anything on the internet, like if there's anything that's been shared. You do your due diligence with your AI, and that's a command. So we have that kind of built in. And it will do background checks as well if you have the right platform to connect with. And then onboarding, which I absolutely love, is that once somebody comes through our process, let's say we have our video meeting with them, it goes really well. We want to invite them to an actual Zoom call, and we decide to move forward. Well, they're immediately starting the onboarding process like a staff member employee, with a bit of a slightly altered one, but again, it's in the same system. So like they're getting logins. Anybody that is a role player in their team, they're foreman. We have training for their foreman on how we want our job, not just the owner. We have training for their foremans, their
Yeah.
crew leaders. We want them
Smart.
to, because if there's a disconnect on their side, and again, this is about taking accountability and turning your sub into an A player by helping him, train his staff, helping him, share some of the accountability. We built all that so that we can do that. Now, the other thing is project management. I love it for that. So again, you can use AI very much to have personalized conversations with subs, bringing up information, conversations that had been had before, checking in on them, giving them some resources. They're actually very easy to market to, and they become partners. Again, they become, even if you don't do work with them, they still respect you as a contractor. And for a lot of times, this is like high level networking, right? The more positive
That's
things that
good.
can be said
Yeah.
about your company, all right, the more attention or more quality, good attention you get is very, very powerful for when you're reaching out to people that may have not known you. You call it warming up, right? Just like prospects are customers, you want to have a branded image of your business in the market, right? Well, you want to have the same branded image if you're using subcontractors there. It's not just, and here's the secret, guys. Marketing and sales is the exact same as recruitment and hiring. If you're not working on building a quality brand, you haven't thought about these things in the process of, working with somebody and setting things up for success, you're never going to get there, right? So project management's another thing, scheduling, confirming appointments, like all of those things, confirming start dates, all of that stuff can be done with your AI, which is absolutely awesome, and has saved us. I can't even begin to say how much time it's saved us already. And it's, it's a fairly new technology, but we've been using it and it's only going to get better, right?
Well, I think too, Jay, most people, what I got tired of was getting onto, like winning a job and not having like being able to bid, say, like a small piece of work, like with the that I knew I was going to have to get a sub for, right?
Mhm.
It was like in my scope, but I was going to have to get a sub for it. And then just having the job, and now it's like the clock is against me, right?
Yeah,
Because my
absolutely.
men's, so I start my men here, knowing that they're closing in on that area, and there's like a sequence,
Right.
and I'm I'm
Now you're
blowing up these
grasping.
guys, and I got so sick, and we were doing almost $4 million a year at that point,
Mhm.
and I was like, this is crazy, like this is crazy, and so I think it's like, I think you gotta like make the decision to get off the friggin' hamster wheel and just like bite the bullet and fix it, right?
Right.
Otherwise, like you're just gonna keep slamming your head against that concrete wall, right? Because
Mhm.
it's not gonna get better if you keep doing the same things
Right.
again
Absolutely.
and again,
Absolutely. And
right?
again, you think about it from both sides, right? So I always look at when I bring in a subcontractor, like, is this a long-term like partnership that I can have a stable
Right,
thing so they're not like
right,
leaving my jobs when they get busy, and like, what I mean? I want to offer consistency to my client. I want to give them the impression that we are stable, we're, we deliver
yeah,
on our promises.
right,
Well, if I didn't think and treat the subcontractor the same way, all right, well, he's not going to see me as a worthwhile, like, this is just a job, right? And a lot of guys don't think about that. And communication, schedule dates, confusion, like questions, all that stuff. We're starting to teach the AI. Now it's not absolutely perfect, but listen, this is only going to get better. But think about where the use case is there, right? So reaching out to subcontractors, like I just told you, I've got them in my system categorized in a certain way. Now, once we win the tender, once we win the job that we know we're going to need, what do you think we start to do? Start the conversations with
yeah,
the intent of getting them booked to a Zoom call and, going over a project. Well, I mean, that could be manual, or that can be something that's, automatically triggered. And these are the kind of use cases that we're really are going to become more and more active. And then, one of the other really strong ones is conflict resolution, right? Patterns, like recognizing, analyzing, like data at the end of the day, like most of us do not possess the skill to analyze large amounts of data, right? Most of us don't even collect data, to be honest with you.
right. That's
You
true.
know, like,
It's true.
forget analyzing, they don't even collect.
Don't even have it,
Right.
right?
So part of that, when we were building this, was, recognizing that, most contractors don't have enough data driven decisions with their subcontract, and they fall victim to making the same mistakes over and over again. Get work, struggle to get it done. Get work,
Yeah,
struggle to get it done. Get work,
yeah,
like everything is variable. Where
yeah,
we see the real opportunity here is, let's analyze that. Let's make it as simple as, a scorecard, which I was going to share with you guys as well, but a scorecard for your sub. Okay. And in that scorecard, all you have to do is very quickly go through it. And that's going to give you a decision-making tool for the next time you do a job, right? Was the sub able to deliver? Did they struggle? Like, what were the problems? What were the conflicts? Now you can use the AI as well to see if that would be the right person based on those conditions, right? So it resolves a lot of conflicts. It also is a chatbot, right? So it can give them, basic information to somebody that's going to ask. So you can get some of this off your admin, off of you, again, day-to-day details, when they text in, where's that being put? Is there being notes made in the CRM? Like, all of this stuff is administrative stuff that, you know, if you're a guy that's just starting out, that's impossible. Doesn't
Oh,
happen, right?
yeah, no.
If you are a company that's, you know, growing, you know, 500 to a million, million and a half, these are where these are the systems that fall apart, right? You don't have an admin, you don't have those things. Think about having an assistant now that was going to document, you know, put that in your calendar to, you know, as a task. Like these are the kind of things that can be very, very powerful and helpful for you on a job. And then, you know, continuous improvement. So I put this continuous improvement here as a step. And by the way, these are the steps that you would take if you wanted to, you know, take advantage of AI in your hiring, in your subcontractors. You know, again, even getting them to, you know, the whole find them, you know, train them, keep them, right? So it's capable of taking some of the burden off of you in the whole process, and it's going to continue to improve, right? So we have to look at it as, yep.
Is this something we can share, Jay?
What's that? Yeah, this is
This,
yeah, we're going to share this.
okay, awesome.
Yeah, for anybody that's going to that wants to tune in on this, we're going to share this. And again, it's just the good, clean steps. If you're interested in seeing our pro hire, I mean, love to take you guys through some demos, or join our school. We'll train you on how to use AI without, you know, the pro hire if you don't want it. But just again, you can use some of these prompts. You can you know, really start to take advantage of AI in solving some of these big issues, writing subcontracts, all of those kind of things. You know, we have you know, we've been working pretty hard on building that out so that contractors can start to take advantage of it.
So closing thoughts today. So I'm looking at this and I'm remembering the challenges of looking for subs, looking for employees.
Mhm.
And I remember our admin every Monday morning would come into, which quality problem, by the way, a gaggle of inquiries for
Oh
jobs,
yeah.
marketing leads, et cetera. And Monday morning was always her just sifting through.
Mhm.
But,
And the worst people to do as well is, again, if she's having a bad day or an off day, all right, or if she's never been trained on what to look for in a quality
right,
sub, and don't underestimate this. Again, you put, like, that's administrative task, but if you don't have the right decision making power in place, and again, why would you? I always laughed at that, like when, you know, you're expecting somebody who's never done the job to be the point of contact and to be the
right.
quarterback, and
Know
there's so
what to,
many gaps.
yep,
Yeah, how do you
right,
even reach out and contact
right,
them? What to
right,
say when they
yep.
respond with something technical? What happens, right?
Well, and
And
I
there's
think
these
that's
gaps.
the, I was going to say, so my closing thought is that, you know, I'm going back to that and going, man, like this is really like, this is game changing stuff
Oh,
because you don't have to hire more people. You don't have to, like, the training is minimal because you have this, we have this engine now that will like take in all this information and give us feedback, right? And that
right.
can communicate with our subs and or our employee hires. So my just closing thought today is like, you know, it's like, it's one of those things that I can see why people are a little bit resistant because we're generally resistant to the stuff we don't understand. It's uncertainty. And so we're
Mhm.
uncomfortable with that uncertainty. But the payoff to like stepping into that discomfort is probably several multiples,
Oh
right? In
yeah,
terms of money and time and money, like
right.
time back and money, and not, you know, as an owner, not chasing your tail, as an owner, not having more shit you've got to do.
Right.
And so I'm looking at this going, this is like a no brainer for a lot of the folks that are probably in this group.
Right. So let's maybe chat about that for a quick second. You know, one of the things that we want to offer here is at Contractor AI, is the information you need to make these decisions. When something is new, I am not ignorant to it. It was scary for me. It's still scary
No,
for me. I'll be
right.
honest. Like
Of
I'm
course.
still overwhelmed a good majority of the time and being like, well, that's, you know, what's that? And how do I make that? Like there's so much thought that gets put into this, but everything that we've done in the courses we're creating and have created are meant to educate first. Okay. I want to educate contractors on how they use this stuff. we take baby steps. You don't need to think you're going to have this, this massive system. No, it's supposed to make your life easier. If it doesn't do that, then don't bother with it.
Yeah,
We bring
right.
in the system. Now here's two methods that we do it. One, we come in and it's done for you. Okay. So completely done. You know what I mean? You're basically, throwing money at the problem and it's getting resolved. Right. And we're very, very good at this. We've got a, very good track record for just coming in and implementing the system. Or if you're unsure, if you're not, not clear on what we're talking about here, come get schooled. Okay. Let me give you some education on what it is that I'm proposing, what I'm talking about. Come join me on, we do it Thursdays at 3. You're all welcome. I have a, very good course in just explaining the details of what you need. Even if you decide not, hey, you know what? I don't want AI, or I'm going to go a different route. You're going to have that much more information to leverage and to use. And I'm only so happy because the more people understand this technology and how it's going to improve their life, the more our mission gets fulfilled. And that's to make sure that contractors are AI ready, one, and that they're not going to be absorbed by the big box stores and the the companies out there that have this in their hands. Because like I said, companies like mine that are really starting to leverage it are going to take out a lot of companies who are not, right? And it's not AI that's going to take your business out. It's a company using AI that's going to take your business out.
That's right.
Right. So that's the key here, right? We have to use it. And again, I've spent months and months just, gruelingly, having all of those uncomfortable kind of like how these pieces connect, putting the puzzle together, and come out with some very simple, like, here's the wins. Right. And I like to do mine. Let's get to the point. Let's get the wins that we need and let you see how this works before you decide to make this big change, because ideas, they change and the practicality changes. But first, I would say, if you're unsure, don't know what this is, get educated. Number 2, if you don't have the time or bandwidth to implement yourself, don't get someone like us to come in and just do it for you. All right. So that and train your staff, put in all the systems. Again, we do this very well. This is what we do. And ultimately that is just something you're going to start to immediately benefit from without, again, going through the agony and stress of building it from yourself or trying to connect all the dots and all the research and everything else. Again, you design all the stuff that goes into building these kind of high level systems. So that's my advice. I'm happy to meet you wherever you are in your journey. And yeah, I don't know if that's long-winded final.
No, that's good. So just to summarize, Jay, so we've got a test drive function where someone can show up and they can hang out.
They can use the software.
School, Thursdays. What is the date? When do you do them again?
3 o'clock.
Thursdays at 3 o'clock. So they can come in and they can hang out and kind of get a feel for it. And, because I mean, sometimes you don't, so someone might be listening to us going, I don't know, is that the right thing? So they can come, they can take it for a test drive, and they can actually like ask questions directly to you. Or if someone's like, that's the thing I need, because they're going through the pain that we went through with subs and like, fuck this, I'm done with this. We also can we have the bandwidth and we've got like the whole system. We can just like implement it for them and execute it as an extension of their business, of their team.
Bolt on. So again, and at the end of the day, guys, feel free. Like, we built a whole training program, and one of, again, our missions is to give people reasonable costs in coaching. We're not, we feel like it's systems and, coaching that's going to get real results here. So yeah, I extend my my offer to anyone that's listening, and hopefully we get to see you there.
All right, that was good. Well, thank you everybody for hanging out with us on Friday. We're back here next week, 3 p.m. and we'll be talking about more stuff that hopefully brings a lot of value to your business, and again, bringing more freedom, more time to owners, and helping you improve your businesses. So thanks for hanging out with us, and see you next week.
Bye.